Aloha, I'm Carolyn Tanaka, and welcome to the first ever cablecast of Live at the Legislature. Every week we'll be sitting down and talking with some members of the House of Representatives to find out what some of their top issues are, what legislation is moving through the session this year. Tomorrow begins the 2018 legislative session, and with us today to talk about some of the priorities and issues that will be facing them is Representative Della Ao-Bilati. She is the House Majority Leader for the House of Representatives. Good morning, Representative Bilati.
Good morning, Carolyn. Thank you, and thank you, Alelo, for giving legislators this opportunity, as well as the public, to engage in the legislative process.
Well, you know, we're only about 2 weeks into the new year, and already there's a lot of news that's been made impacting the state of Hawaii, and a lot of issues that are going to be facing you tomorrow when you gavel into session. So let's talk about, give us an overview of some of the issues that we'll be facing this year.
The State House is going to be really focused on housing and homelessness as two priority issues. In the arena of housing, you're going to see us have a lot of discussions about how do we increase the inventory of housing at all levels, from affordable rentals to workforce development, elderly housing, and market housing.
Let's talk a little bit more about the housing issue. Right now, the state, the governor's office is working on it, counties are working on it. How do we plan to incorporate all of these ideas together?
Sure. So our House Housing Committee, chaired by Tom Brower and vice chaired by Nadine Nakamura, have been working through the interim with our state and county partners to figure out ways in which we can ensure that the inventory is being built. There will be bills that are in coordination with the governor's office. There will be bills that the House focuses specifically on. You're going to hear a lot of talk about infrastructure investment, as well as the possibility of transit-oriented development.
Can you help explain a little bit about what transit-oriented development is and how it fits in with your plans?
Sure. Now that we know that the rail is financed all the way through Ala Moana, and we have parts of the rail initially built, there is this opportunity, particularly on state lands, to encourage development around the transit stations, hence transit-oriented development. We have this opportunity to incentivize the development of affordable rentals, of affordable housing, of market housing, as well as the opportunity to talk about things like schools that should be around transit-oriented development, businesses that might be there, as well as health centers. Our communities are growing. We know that the transit areas are going to be places for development, and we have this opportunity now to have the conversation about what we want to see in those transit centers.
And we are working with the counties on this?
You know, I think it's something that we have to keep working and talking. There's a lot of conversations about infrastructure. You know, what we saw happen in Kaka'ako, where the state invested a lot of infrastructure and you had de facto transit-oriented development, but with an emphasis on housing that may not be for the affordable marketplace, we need to avoid that. We need to ensure that we have affordable rentals and affordable housing along all of the rail station lines as we move into town.
What about the homelessness? That is a huge issue to tackle, obviously. What are some of the plans on that?
So homelessness is a issue to tackle, but we already have some early indications of things that are working, things like the Kaka'ako Family Assessment Center. So what you're going to see the House do is focus on potentially pilot projects, navigation centers where we can ensure that people have the services that will get them and move them to either transitional housing or permanent housing. The Family Assessment Center in Kaka'ako focused on families. We now really need to tackle the population of single adults or couples that might not have children. We need to address the issues of substance abuse, mental health abuse. So there's a lot of good examples that we can take a look at and determine as a legislature what we need to fund. Another good opportunity and some progress that we're seeing is in the Community Outreach Court program that has been initiated in the City and County of Honolulu. Just in the few months that they've been working, we've seen over 500 cases cases cleared and 46 individuals helped. So you're talking about individuals, nonviolent misdemeanants, who have problems, maybe got caught up in a sweep, lost their ID. They need help to clear up their programs. They need services around them, those housing first services around them, and in order to get off the streets. That is a program that is showing great promise. So the House will be taking a closer look at the community outreach program.
There's been a lot of talk also about, for lack of a better term right now, safe zones. Is that something you're looking, and enforcement?
So the more appropriate term that's being used and the best practices that we're finding around the country are navigation centers. They're going to be transitional areas where folks might be able to, store some of their belongings, a hygiene center, but really the focus is on providing them services and moving them on. I think that's what the public is really demanding. They don't want to see tent cities, and the House is not interested in necessarily funding tent cities. What we need to do is help people navigate through their issues, get the services they need, and move on to transitional housing.
What about enforcement?
So we know enforcement is a key part of it. In the governor's budget, we see that he has put some money into making sure that the agencies are staffed and have the ability to enforce. But we as a legislature know that enforcement is just one piece of it. So we need to figure out and determine where do we have these people go through navigation centers or safe zones, but really navigation centers to get them to permanent housing.
Well, that's a lot on your plate, just those two topics. But there are some other issues that will likely come up: death with dignity, perhaps recreational marijuana use. What other issues do you see coming up, and will you tackle them?
So in the House, there's going to always be lots of issues. You're right, death with dignity, there's going to be Airbnb, and we have a great slew of chairs who are going to be tackling all of these issues. Death with dignity will likely come up again in the Health and Human Services Committee. Airbnb is going to be tackled by our chair of the Tourism Committee, Richard Onishi. We're going to see all kinds of things cropping up amongst our chairs.
Well, as I said earlier, 2 weeks into the brand new year, and there are a lot of things that have happened in this state already. We go into session tomorrow, and we've also got some public hearings, and an important public hearing that we're having on Friday regarding the false alert yesterday. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that hearing?
Sure. Friday's informational briefing will be a joint briefing with House and Senate committees. I think the legislature really wants to understand what happened and what is being done so that it doesn't happen again. And I think a really third important point is that we need to encourage better preparation and planning by all sectors, by state government, by county governments, by our broadcasting system, by schools, and by businesses, and individual families. This is a really good opportunity for us to learn. We have to hold the people accountable, but we also have to hold ourselves accountable and prepare.
Thank you very much, Representative. That 8 minutes went by very quickly. Thank you for being here with us today, and thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in to Live at the Legislature, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.
Live at the Legislature is a live half-hour weekly news program that focuses on the issues, legislation, and topics of importance emerging from this year's legislative session. Each week, state senators and representatives provide a variety of perspectives on the issues from both sides of the aisle. Tune in to Live at the Legislature weekly to get exclusive updates on what's happening in Hawaii's legislature.
Aloha and welcome to Live at the Legislature. I'm Jill Kuramoto. I'm the Director of Communications for the Hawaii State Senate. And every week we'll be discussing the events and issues affecting the Senate with the various senators of the Hawaii State Legislature. And joining me this morning, we have Senate President Ron Kochi, who represents District 8, Kauai, and we also have joining us is the Senate Majority Leader, Senator Jay Kalani English, who represents District 7, Hana, Upcountry Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us. And tomorrow the Senate convenes at 10 a.m. Here at the State Capitol for the 2018 legislative session. So let's begin with a discussion about the legislative program for the Senate. And I know that the Senate is going to be focused on legislation based on the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So, explain to us what those
Thank you.
goals
Well, we
are.
got together, the Senate got together, all of our members, and we talked about all of our various topics, homelessness, education, environmental concerns. And what we found is they all fit in the UN, 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. So we looked at this and looked at all of our existing programs and realized that if we adopt these matrix, this measurement system, then we have a way of measuring how we are progressing with the rest of the world. So we've decided to adopt this within local statute and put this forward because it encompasses and it helps us now to measure up with the rest of the planet.
No, I think it's safe to say that homelessness, housing, ensuring the safety and security of our residents and visitors in Hawaii is top of mind for most people. And the issues that will be addressed, this will be issues that will be addressed through the Senate's legislative program, including this weekend's event of the false ballistic missile threat. So let's talk about that.
Well, we do have a joint briefing scheduled. On the Senate side, we have government operations chaired by Senator Kim and public safety chaired by Senator Nishihara. It'll be at 10 a.m. at the auditorium, and clearly getting as much information as possible is going to be critical to make sure that this never happens again. Also, if we do have an actual event, what we need to do to be better prepared than we were on Saturday, and clearly not having clear information on Saturday was a huge part of the problem. And so I really want to thank Olelo for having a program like this that brings that transparency, tries to get information to the public about the myriad of issues that we're going to be facing here at the legislature. And I wouldn't be surprised if Senator Kim and Senator Nishihara would be the next two Senate guests talking about what happened at the hearing on Friday.
Exactly. Some of the other issues, let's talk about that real quickly. Housing, homelessness, those again can be addressed through the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes, especially, let's take that for example, housing, Sustainable Development Goal number 11, sustainable cities and livable cities. So housing is multifaceted, and one of the big things that we found, because the Senate took this up in our program the year before, and we did a lot of changes in how it operates. But one of the big things that we realized is, a lot of it comes with county zoning and how that works, and how people are allowed to build homes or add on to homes and make homes spaces available for living. So, I think we're in concert with the House on looking at how we can better the process, especially with an eye to the neighbor islands, because we have a lot of homeless, hidden homeless people that are literally in the bushes. In Maui, we have a huge population in Kanaha, that area, in Kihei, and even in Hana. So how do we address the hidden homeless and those that we don't often see is also a big problem.
The other interesting turn of events as we try to address the issue of affordable housing, everyone agrees we need it, everyone says that we should be doing more. And when HHFDC came out to say right here on property where our offices are located, we could build 2,000 affordable housing units. When they held the community meetings, there were questions about carrying capacity of the infrastructure, impact on the neighborhoods, and as the plans went through, they now have a plan for 800 units. And so while we're still trying to build over 20,000 affordable units in the next decade, it has to be with good community input, good planning, and clearly the carrying capacity of the infrastructure, whether it's roads, parking, sewer, water, are all going to play a key role in how successful we can be.
Exactly. Climate change mitigation, that's always been something that's been a priority of the Senate. And again, I guess this is an area that will be taking the lead.
If you take a look at the Climate Commission report that just came out, the two key issues that they talked about was we're in the 1 foot inundation zone right now, which means our sea level has risen 1 foot already. And the second thing is they recommend that we do a thing called planned retreat. what does that mean? It means retreat to the mountains and how we have to start planning for that. So, it's a huge, huge undertaking. Electrical plants are in the inundation zone, so our sewer treatment plants, a lot of public infrastructure, a lot of schools, a lot of shelters, a lot of things like this. So as we move forward, now that we know this information, we have to start looking at how do we do the planned retreat and which lands do we look at, and how do we systematically begin moving infrastructure from the inundation zone to safer areas.
Great. Well, on another subject, with the uncertainty of the actions of the federal administration, it appears more important than ever that the states take care of themselves. How do you think that elevates the responsibility of our legislators, particularly the Senate?
If you go back and look at my opening remarks last year, I commended Ways and Means Chair Tokuda for adopting over the previous 2 fiscal years conservative budgets. Well, we had money available to us. It wasn't aggressively creating new programs and positions. It was getting our unfunded liabilities prepaid. It was making sure we restored the rainy day fund, making sure our hurricane relief fund was fully restored. But all of that was being done in preparation for adverse impact from the federal government. Both chambers were controlled by Republicans. That has been a concern. So I think that we are in a fiscal position to make sure that we will be able to help those most disadvantaged in our community with some of the federal cuts that we anticipate that are coming, and we'll be ready to go. I just think quickly the one area of is early college, where we're seeing first in the family going to college by bringing the community or the instructors to the high schools. And also for those families who are financially challenged to send their children to college, this allows them to get those credits out of the way, reduce their costs. And then it didn't get much notice, but there is about $150,000 in the governor's supplemental budget for pre-K. And education is going to be that way to help get people out of the poverty and homelessness.
All right, thank you. And thank you for joining us this morning. And thank you for watching Live at the Legislature. We'll see you next week.
Live at the Legislature is a live half-hour weekly news program that focuses on the issues, legislation, and topics of importance emerging from this year's legislative session. Each week, state senators and representatives provide a variety of perspectives on the issues from both sides of the aisle. Tune in to Live at the Legislature Weekly to get exclusive updates on what's happening in Hawaii's legislature.
Good morning, America, and thanks for joining us here. Live at the Legislature is the first one ever, so you are making an epic moment by joining us. Here I am with my boss, the beautiful Andrew Tupola, who is our District 43 representative, as well as the House Minority Leader. Good morning.
Good morning, Crystal. How are you?
I'm well. We're coming off of a crazy weekend, which we will get into. Trust me, we'll get there. But first off, session kicks off tomorrow. What are the priorities for the Minority Caucus for this session?
Well, our caucus package has 3 things, which one is affordability, accessibility, and accountability. And definitely in the realm of accountability, we will also be addressing emergency preparedness for the state and how we can hold our government better accountable for the safety of all the people in Hawaii.
Okay, so how will we try to accomplish this?
Well, I think the package in general, or whenever you're putting out ideas or bills, the best way to get it accomplished is by involving the people. And so a big part of the gap between us and our community members has been a lack of communication. And so I've tried as much as possible using social media. We have a website, reptupola.com. We have Facebook groups that actually run certain conversations, and I have ongoing online town halls that people can engage. So in any type of accomplishment that we do here at the legislature, it is dependent on the people getting involved, because at the end of the day, the government can't do everything for us. We need our community members to weigh in. We need them to be a part of the solutions, and we definitely need them to be a part of the implementation.
Social media is great, and I seen for myself that a lot of people tagged you and thanked you for your quick response. Okay, so let's get into it. This past weekend, it was crazy, right? We got this scare that this missile was coming. What were the thoughts with everybody that was going on, or with you as a representative?
Well, I was putting on my running gear because I was about to do a run, and my husband just got home from work, so the kids were sleeping. Luckily for me, my family was right there around me, so I didn't have that concern about them, but immediately my concern was turned outward. I got the text at about 8:13 from HPD. I called over to Wheeler, over to Schofield, to ensure that I had military clearance, that it was in fact an exercise drill or a mistake. So immediately, I think about 8:17, 8:15, I was on Facebook Live. I did 6 of them, so I did it from my personal page, my rep page, all of the Facebook groups I run, my campaign page, and on Instagram. So immediately people were watching it, looking at it. That was about 8:21 by the time people started to engage with my post, my video. We still hadn't heard back from the government that this was not real. So people were still very concerned. They were actually hiding in the H3 tunnel. People were saying, I got let go from work, but I can't get home fast enough. What happens with my children? So back to our point about accountability, there is a certain amount of accountability that we expect from our government. And I think that we as individual citizens of Hawaii should also hold ourselves accountable for our preparedness. I always say you can't demand unreasonable things out of yourself, but you should always demand improvement. And that's what we want to see from here going forward.
Japan had the same scare this past weekend, and they responded within minutes. But yet it took, how long did it take Hawaii for us to get that?
Oh, it was 38
response?
minutes.
38 minutes. I mean, thankfully, those who are following you on social media got the memo, but we have all these people out on the streets who are scared. So you are gonna find a solution that never happens again.
Well, I think with what you brought up with social media, the point of the matter is that our technology has surpassed, what we're currently affording to the public. So as far as even hearings, why can't we be going live in hearings? We can. Why can't we have remote testimony for neighbor islands? We should. I actually went to the city council room in Kona, and people can testify from Waimea, from Kohala, from Hilo side, and they can testify into the Kona city council room if they want to weigh in. And that's one of the bills that we put forward in the caucus package, is that our accessibility at the point where we are with technology should be far past where we are today.
You guys heard that? We're going to make this happen, right? With your help. So Representative Tupola, District 43 from Eva to Waianae, Maili. What are you doing to improve your community?
Well, a lot of the bills that I put forward, I have corresponding events that go with the initiative. For example, I am going to be introducing some in regards to domestic violence. We have a Young Women's Prom event coming up on March 3rd. We're also doing a ukulele bash on April 6th. We're also doing our 4th annual Wake Up Westside Emergency Preparedness Fair on August 18th. So all of these events layered out in my community are for the public to engage and be a part of the cause.
Okay, so all these events coming up, if people want to come, do they necessarily have to be from District 43?
No, anybody can come.
Okay.
We should all definitely connect with one another, because the lines drawn in our community are not real. I mean, we all are one people.
That's going to be exciting. So prom event where girls can come and get prom dresses, and then you have an ukulele event, and then the preparedness, which everybody needs to be at. If they need information, how do they go about that?
You can follow me on social media. I have Instagram, I have a Facebook page. We have ongoing Westside Town Hall that you can join. The Westside Traffic Alert has 18,000 members, which I actively talk about different traffic solutions that we have going out. So I would say social media is the best, but we also use email. We have a website, and you can call my office 586-8465.
I like that. So we just have a couple minutes left. Is there anything that is on your mind that you want Hawaii to know?
Well, tomorrow is going to be a big day. It's not only the opening of the legislature, it's the 125th anniversary of the overthrow, and so there's going to be a lot of people here. We're going to have ku'i at the Capitol outside. I know Kamehameha Schools has actually put all the kalo together for all the students to participate. I'm going to pound some poi tomorrow, for sure.
Yes.
For sure. So I hope that you can make it. If you can't, I think you're going to be involved in something going on, and we invite you to, because this is part of us being part of the government that is ours.
Okay, so we can find Representative Tupola. I personally want to follow you because I want to know if there's something happening, you're going to get that response right away to the people, because I can't wait 30-something minutes.
Well, you know, we had 2 water main breaks in my community, so I learned about how my role as a representative should be to coordinate all of these first responders, because in the event that they're coming from outside the community, I know the community best. And so standing out there and coordinating it is something we did years ago, and now we see how important it is for our communication to be on point in the event of any emergency.
Okay, we just hope a scare like that doesn't happen here. So we will follow you on your Facebook page at Representative. Is it Rep Andrea Tupola?
Rep Andrea Tupola?
Easy, in case you can't spell representative. Rep Andrea Tupola on Facebook, or you can give her a call at the Capitol. She is always willing to hear your voices. Until next time, we are going to be here every Monday live at the Legislature. Thank you so much, District 43 Rep Andrea Tupola. I am Crystal Akana Pang, and we will see you next time. Until then, let's make Hawaii better.